Well, yeah, so it's great. We'll peel back the layers of Midwestern living, and I'd like to begin our conversation with, if we look at the calendar, we're on the 4-year anniversary of this pandemic, and if we go back, how did you survive that time period, and how did it change you?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of changes happened in those 4 years because one thing I used to be a writer, so I was a contract writer, a freelance writer. I wrote for financial magazines like Fortune, Money, places like that. And during the pandemic was one of my best years. A lot of people were struggling with the financial situation at the time, but it led to a lot of work for me. And so I saw my income increase to high as it's ever been. It was then two things. One, I didn't love what I did. And then two, the year after the pandemic, when everyone was dealing with increased costs, slowdown, stuff like that, suddenly my work, like almost, I lost about like 90% of my clients in a matter of a couple of weeks, which was very rare for me. And so I had to be very nimble and like kind of adjust on the fly as things were going on. And it gave me the opportunity to really focus on sort of where I really wanted to go with my career and for the next 30 years or whatever I do for the rest of my life. And that's how I ended up, doing what I do today is because I took that time to do that.
Interesting. So let's get to the brass tacks of what you do on a daily basis. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders. It's
Yeah.
career day, and one of the kids says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
Yeah, I would say I enable therapists, private practice therapists, and self-employed to thrive financially while they're focused on clients. And then the third grader would probably say, "What does it mean by thrive financially?" or something of that nature. I have no idea what he said, but it really is just sort of helping them solve like complex financial questions that they have. Often in the self-employment space, you've probably talked to many entrepreneurs and whatnot. They're very good at building income, but
Yep.
they're not always great at building wealth from that income. And it's particularly true in the private practice space and in the solopreneur space. And so that's really where my focus is.
So what did you want to be in the third grade? What was your dream?
Oh, I'm from Kansas. I mean, I wanted to be a basketball player.
Okay.
I had a basketball in my hand as soon as I could like stand. And unfortunately, I'm not very tall and I'm very slow. But I can shoot the daylights out of the ball. So I can still do that.
So, as you probably already very well know this, when you grow up in the Midwest, you have to dedicate your allegiance to either KU or MU.
Yeah.
So, I picked KU. There was some guy in high school. I don't know why I picked it or what was alluring about it, but I did. And
Hmm.
I remember in '88, the Final Four was played with Larry Brown and Danny Manning at Kansas City at Kemper. And
Yeah.
man, I got into that. And they won it, and it was a big deal. So, yeah, I'm baptized in the Jayhawk tradition.
Absolutely. I am also a Jayhawk. Where I was, it was K-State or the
True.
Jayhawks.
Yeah.
And so my family went to Kansas, and so I definitely got suckered in. And I've moved a lot in my life. Like I grew up in, I started in Wichita. I grew up in Dallas, moved to Arizona, DC, New York now. And the one thing that remains constant is my complete allegiance to the Jayhawks. And so, yeah, that one has held firm.
So what's the best game you ever, have you what's the best game you've ever seen? Was it at Allen Fieldhouse?
I mean, I've actually gotten to play on Allen Fieldhouse on
Wow.
the court there. So when I was in Kansas, I went to like a state conference tournament and I
Oh.
got to play on it. So that was my favorite game on there. But I've been to a number. It's not like one of those like, oh, it was that game or this game. It was cool for me because I don't get there very often. Um, but yeah, so I guess my best basketball experiences, I went to University of Texas for school, and even though I went to University of Texas, I had to keep the Kansas allegiance, and so I would go to the Texas games with like my Kansas gear on. And so Texas students would be yelling at me. Meanwhile, I'm a Texas student and I'm not yelling back at them necessarily, but like I was into the game and rooting for Kansas. Yeah.
So how did you get this love of numbers and even being a writer? How did all of this, the seeds, how were they planted in you?
Yeah, I have always been introverted, and I think because I moved around a bit and had, some isolating experiences early in my life that I was drawn to, intellectual thought and reading and kind of writing out sort of ideas. And I found that I was pretty good at the writing side, right? And so, I'd have like teachers in high school be like, "Yeah, he's really smart when he's motivated, but it's hard to get him motivated sometimes." But then, like the English classes, I'd be like very, into it and whatnot. And so it became like sort of a natural thing. I'd watch like ESPN and hear like PTI was new at the time and being really drawn into that. And so I thought the idea of like sports journalism might be something I might go into. In school, I actually did that. I covered like the University of Texas swim team. I covered the local AAA baseball team. So I got a taste of that. And then, moving forward, I was just sort of like, you know, I, I don't know about the writing career, but I want to take some business classes. So maybe I can meld the two. Found a program that did that. And that's how I ended up in New York and also really focusing on the financial writing space at first. And then, you know, after years of writing that space, you learn all the tricks and trades that financial advisors do and realized I would be better one-on-one with someone as opposed to just hiding in my,
Yeah.
basement writing.
Yeah,
So,
for
yeah,
sure. So
yeah.
who's been a hero for you in your life?
Heroes, I would say, like not a like, do you mean like heroes as sort of like a mentor hero or like people like in the national stage that you kind of like look up towards?
Probably a mentor, more
Yeah.
or less.
I would say one of my biggest like impacts, like slowdowns in my life has been the lack of mentors. So for many years, I really struggled finding a right mentor for me. I've had people who helped me. I've had editors that I really trust and whatnot, but they weren't really like necessarily looking out for me moving forward or anything like that. And honestly, one reason why I ended up switching careers is because anytime I would look at someone in my space, I didn't want to be where they were. Like I didn't want the lifestyle that they had because they were working 70 hours a day and eking by and whatnot. Um, and so it took a long time for me to develop that. I'm a big proponent of therapy. I got into therapy. That helped me work through a lot, and I credit my therapist for a lot of what I do today. And then the guy who kind of runs the shop, who I'm kind of under the umbrella of, he's been incredibly helpful as I've made the switch over the past few years, because he provides me with sort of an understanding of like what's normal in this space and like how I should view certain like tax things and whatnot, but also just like general guidance. So yeah, I would say, and like like listeners who like aren't always like, where's my mentor? I need to go find a mentor. It's not always easy. It will come, but like it's okay if just kind of follow, your own internal clock in that case.
So if you can meet anybody alive on the planet that you find fascinating right now or you admire, who would you love to meet and talk to?
Years ago, it'd be Tim Ferriss. I was
Yeah.
fascinated with Tim Ferriss because you read a lot of like self-help books and stuff like that, and I felt like he was really taking it to a different stage. Like he was taking it from a very different approach. And while I don't know if I totally agree with all the four-hour work week stuff and whatnot, I can't deny that it takes an incredible like human and interesting human to like come up with that. And so there'd be some fascination there. And then now I'm recently been reading a lot of this man named Dan Sullivan, who's like a mentor coach type of thing. And I really like his approach to things. And so I think I'd like to talk to him, just in terms of like a practical conversation. In terms of like dream conversations, probably LeBron,
Yeah.
someone like that. Yeah.
Yeah. That would be cool.
Yeah.
So what is your motivation every day? What gets you out of bed? What gets you motivated to not only to do work and to help people, but to also grow as a person, to evolve as yourself?
Mhm. I think a lot of it is the experience that I had when I was a solo writer. Like it was so isolating and such drudgery a lot of times that I really doubted I would ever, like I would look at people who like their careers and just like, what, I mean, they're crazy. Like you can't like your career. Like that can't happen. Um, and now I genuinely am like motivated to get up. I get excited when my clients like reach a certain benchmark or something that, that they've been striving for. I enjoy the marketing side of it. I enjoy having conversations like this and I think it's partly because I was in such like blase attitude previously that I really now recognize like what I was missing and what I really enjoy now. And so it makes it a lot more motivational, like just to kind of get out the door and whatnot. Yeah.
So, of all of the clients that you've had, what's one of your favorite success stories?
So there, like the thing about financial planning, first of all, is it's ongoing process, right? So you like we like to think of things as like a beginning, middle, and end, but in life, I mean, the end is the end, and so we're just constantly reiterating, reiterating, reiterating. I would say that one of the clients, probably the most dire situations where they're starting to come out of it, that's the type of stuff that like gets me like really excited because they're going from like can they pay the bills or are they going to have to go into bankruptcy to oh well now they can like go on vacation and enjoy some of those things. I have so those are like the types of things that when I come across them, that's really nice. I do have a client right now who we are essentially reworking her entire business so she can eventually sell that business, and we're in the midst of it. First, we had to present with the fact that she needed to do this because she didn't have the savings or anything like that to live off of unless this business sold. And now I'm already like we're in the middle of it, and I'm already seeing this business become something that she's not only going to be living off for the rest of her life, she's going to thrive for the rest of her life. And that's exciting because people have so much worries and concerns about the future and what like retirement will look like for them, and to give someone some insight into the fact that like you're not only going to like you need to think bigger about your dreams now because you're going to have bigger dreams. That's cool.
Yeah. So, of all of the things that you've done in your life so far, what are you the proudest of?
The proudest is definitely the career change because that is not something people I'm 41. That's not something people do. I was 38, 39 at the time. That's not something people do very easily. And it takes if anyone's sort of considering it, it takes a lot of bravery and it's a slow process, but it does work out. So I would say that is most of all. My two kids, I'm obviously very proud of. And then I'm a published author. I've written a book on how to invest in cryptocurrency. And so that's pretty cool. Not a lot of people could say they've written a book,
Yeah.
and I got that opportunity.
So, if you could get into a time machine and go back in time and see one basketball game, where are you going?
I would go to the 1988 championship. That's the one I'd see.
I
I was young then, so I couldn't see it, but I've seen videos of it.
Yeah, I would be right there. In fact, for me, and it's probably more timely where you're at in Long Island, I was a Mets fan because of my dad. Well, the Royals won in 85, and of course, I've always had my allegiance to Kansas City.
Mhm.
But when the Mets won in 86, if I could have been in the crowd when that ball went underneath Billy Buckner's legs,
I understand that.
just to
Yeah.
feel that, it would have been
Yeah.
amazing.
Oh
So,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So at the end of the day, everyone has an idea of you. Everybody has this perception of you, family, friends, and clients. But you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I really think I'm a very empathetic, uh, driven person, right? So, like, I can be pretty casual with people uh, and kind of just like reserved and whatnot, but like, there's a lot of fire underneath it, and like, I wouldn't be able to like, I've worked for myself for now going on like 12 years, and I wouldn't be able to do that without that drive. And it takes a lot of courage for like those who are working for themselves to do that because the only person like you're talking to on a day-to-day basis is maybe if you have a partner and then yourself, and it's really a lot of internal talk. So there's a lot of that, and then I'm very empathetic because of my career as the journalist and now doing what I do. I'm I'm not doing what I do so, I mean, I like to help wealthy people improve their standing, but it's not the sole reason. It's because I really like helping people solve problems, and you wouldn't be able to do that without having a very empathetic ear.
So, Ryan, if anyone wants to hire you, learn more about you, reach out, any of the good business, where do they go?
Yeah, so you can go to thinkingcapfinancial.com, and that's where I kind of mark it under, and where they can find me. And then I also have an ebook. It's coming out at the end of March. It's for the self-employed. You can go to thinkingcapfinancial.com/self-employed income to wealth. And you can sign up and you'll get an email with the ebook there.
I love this story. Thank you, Ryan, so much. Thank you for opening up. Thank you for your time. Best of luck with everything.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet. And before we go, I never want to assume, and from a journalistic standpoint, you got to make sure. How do you
Yeah,
pronounce your last name?
Derousseau.
Derousseau. Wanted to make sure. Cool.
Yeah.
Ryan, this has been a joy. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good one.
Take care. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.